Alrighty, so news of the week episode on this Thursday afternoon, and we're gonna go over a lot of transfer rumors and also signings that has happened in the past week. But we're gonna start off with the Vancouver Whitecaps, and we're not gonna talk too much about the Thomas Muller signing. Obviously, I know there's been a lot of excitement in terms of that, especially Whitecaps fan base have greeted the Bayern legend at the airport as well and give him a very good welcome reception. I can't imagine how that's gonna be like when he does finally play his first game at BC Plays. But obviously, for the Vancouver Whitecaps, and really for the past couple months, the biggest question about the Whitecaps is what is going to happen with the ownership group because, for the past couple months, it's been eerily silent when it comes to the selling in terms of this ownership group that wants to do. Well, now we finally get an answer. The fact that it seems like the ownership group is not going to sell the team, and instead they're going to be finding a new partner. Now, obviously, that's got to be great news if you are a Vancouver Whitecaps fans because there's a lot of concern about this team potentially moving if the team is not going to sell. I never thought that was going to be the case, but I can understand why people are thinking that that is the case. And also, some people have said that this move feels very similar to what we just saw with the Minnesota Twins in the MLB. How their owners were saying that they're going to sell the team, and then eventually they decided to retract that statement. Now, obviously, I think the reason why maybe the ownership group couldn't quite get the sale done is, the economy right now, it's still not great, especially the Canadian market as well. It hasn't been great in the last couple of years, and the amount that the Vancouver Whitecaps has been asking, I mean, it feels like it's way too expensive of an amount for anybody to buy this club. So yeah, I think the ownership group kind of realized that despite their best effort in terms of trying to sell the team, seems like if there's no buyer, they might as well just kind of keep the team because again, the I as much as I know the fan base have been enjoying a dream season this year, this is by far the best season that the Vancouver Whitecaps has had in franchise history, and now you add in probably the biggest name in club history in Thomas Muller there. You know that this fan base does not want this team to be relocated, and now it seems like they are going to be staying put with the ownership group, not looking to sell, but still are looking to try to find a partners in terms of maybe splitting the shareholder in terms of how much there's going to be minority owners that is going to be joining this Caps ownership group. Now, CF Montreal, and it feels like every single year for Montreal, it's not a season or not a year for Montreal if it wasn't for some change in the front office. I already mentioned how much of disjoint this front office is, and maybe besides the San Jose Earthquakes and maybe even DC United in general, Montreal probably have the worst front office and maybe even the worst ownership group in MLS in general. Well, this doesn't make any difference, and that yeah, again, it feels like every single year there's always a shakeup in the front office, and now the latest shakeup is the director of soccer Corey Ray has departed from the club, and instead they decided to replace him with a couple of the Saputo bros and also another person that doesn't really have a lot of experience in terms of running the director of soccer. So yeah, things are not going well for Montreal, and I feel bad for Montreal fans in terms of dealing with this, and I also feel bad for teams that are dealing with this in terms of bad ownership. I mean, we talk about other leagues with bad owners around, and that there's always that movement of sell the team that all started with the Oakland A's a couple of years ago. Well, it feels like now it's maybe starting to come to MLS as well. I think DC earlier this season had that chant of sell the team and demanding the team to be sold. I'm pretty sure the Quakes probably would follow the same thing. Well, I mean, for the Quakes, at least it seems like they're in the process of selling. Though, again, going back to the previous news of the Whitecaps ownership decide not to sell, I am a little nervous the fact that John Fisher is going to do the same thing that the Minnesota Twins just did today, and that is we're not going to sell the team anymore. I'm just going to keep the team, and that yeah, it feels like that's exactly the opposite of what Quakes fans want for this team to free up the reign of terror that John Fisher has put on the team. But unfortunately for Montreal, they're just wishing that that's the case with the Saputo group, and especially with Joey Saputo, probably the most hated man right now in Montreal, and maybe all of Canada as well, because yeah, it's sad to see how this organized this team has been, and I'm really hoping eventually, maybe one day, MLS might be forcing some of the owners to sell. But obviously that probably won't happen unless, of course, the ownership group this does something absolutely egregious, or the fact that they're not making enough money, then maybe the league would try to step in, maybe force a sale of their team. Now, the Portland Timbers, so they have been busy when it comes to the transfer market, and now we get to some of the signings that has happened. And as I said, the Timbers have been very busy because they signed two new players this last couple of days. First, signing Felipe Cavaggio on a DP contract, and then signing Christopher Valde as a DP player as well. So they signed a couple of DP player in terms of these last couple of days. Now, with the Christopher Valde one, yeah, this was kind of expected. We knew this was going to happen. And also, just want to mention the Santi Marino transfer saga situation. Looks like that transfer saga has now been over as Fluminense has finally finalized the deal, and apparently it's $6 million that they're going to pay for Santi Marino, which I think that's a good deal for the Timbers. At least from what I heard from Timbers fans, they think that this is not only just a great deal, but an absolute steal as well. Consider they said that Santi Marino has been kind of inconsistent this season, and not to mention he has had some maturity issue, as we all saw what happened recently of him just simply walking out on the team and basically said, "I'm gonna request a transfer to Fluminense, and if I'm not getting it, then I'm not gonna play for this team." And obviously, I think the Timbers, ultimately, I think they kind of did the right thing. They don't want another Evander situation to drag on for so long, like what we saw in the off season, especially for $6 million. I think that's a pretty good fee for Santi Marino, and that for them to already have the backup plans, and Christopher for Valde, I think that's probably going to be the replacement. Originally, they weren't going to replace Santi Marino with him. They want to keep both, but I guess maybe Santi Marino probably saw this move and say, yeah, does that mean now I'm going to be playing second fiddle to this guy? Because if that's the case, I am out of here. I don't want to be part of it. He have said that he still has that uh has the some ambitious kind of plan to maybe even be with the Colombian national team, and playing second fiddle with an MLS team, that's definitely not going to happen. And especially when I also heard that it seems like the only way he can maybe be playing so on the Colombian national team is maybe go somewhere else, especially joining a South American team like with the likes of Fluminense. But yeah, again, as much as the Timbers, they try to maybe hold on both players with them getting a new signing and hold on for Santi Marino. We see this happen before where players, when there's a new signing happen and they kind of had a sense that he might be the replacement for me, they might start to become a little bit edgy and say that, well, if you're going to replace this guy and limit my minutes, and I'm probably just going to look elsewhere. Now, when it comes to the Felipe Cabaggio signing, I mean, he was good with the New York Red Bulls. I'm kind of surprised the Red Bulls decided to not keep him, although I think he was only on loan, and I think that loan deal expire by the end of the summer. But yeah, there's no doubt that he did very well with the Red Bulls for a DP level contract. I mean, I don't think. No, I feel like this he qualified more of a high TAM kind of player rather than a DP type of player. But nevertheless, if he does well with the Timbers, if he shows even better ability than he did with the Red Bulls, I think this is a good signing for the Timbers. The Timbers are really investing on the attack, which again, that's kind of a surprise considering I always think the Timbers, the attack is never the issue with this team. The biggest issue I still think with this team is on the defensive end. The defensive end this season, well, it has gone a little bit better. What has not gone better is the goalkeeping situation. I mean, the goalkeeping situation with Maxime Crepeau, especially in the last game that he had, that disastrous game that he has. Oh boy, there could be a big goalkeeping problem that this Timbers team might be facing heading into the stretch run. Now, the Chicago Fire, they have acquired midfielder Andre Franco on loan from Porto. So throughout this summer, I know the Chicago Fire has been in for the Kevin De Bruyne sweepstake, and there was even rumors that they were very close of signing him, but ultimately Kevin De Bruyne says that he's going to stay in Europe, and now he's with Napoli. So instead, it feels like the Fire had to have a backup plan. I think this is the backup plan of them signing him. From what I heard, he's a decent kind of player, and I think could be a good backup plan on in case if they weren't able to sign Kevin De Bruyne, and also a good partner with Philip Zincanago as well. I mean, as much as Philip Zincanago has really carried this Fire team, especially in the playmaking department, I'm pretty sure the Fire really want to have another player to kind of put that low off of him, and Andre Franco can definitely be the guy to do so. Now, Charlotte FC, they have acquired Archie Goodwin from LA United. So, for Charlotte, they have been going number nine hunting throughout this summer transfer window. I mean, I was also kind of interested to see whether or not if they were gonna realistically sign a number nine, consider, their current number nine Tokomati has done really well. And I know they really want to look for a Patrick Ajiman's replacement, but Tokomati has done a really good job in replace for him, and that in some way it feels like Tokomati was in the same shoes that Ajiman was in just a year ago, where Ajiman was kind of in that situation where is Charlotte going to maybe replace him after they sell Karol Swiderski, and it turns out Ajiman turns out to be a hit, so they decide to keep him. Didn't find a Swiderski replacement, and it feels like this probably was going to be the same case with Tukomati has done very well, but it seems like this time they decided to find a replacement. Now for this guy, he comes from the A League. We have seen a lot of A League signing in the last couple of transfer window, but one thing about him is that he was the Golden Boot winner in the A League. Now I know the A League is definitely not as good in terms of the quality compared to MLS as well, maybe a step below, but considering the fact that he was the top goal scorer and he know how to bang in goals, this could be a good signing for Charlotte. And again, it's going to be interesting to see whether or not if he is going to be the starter straight away. I mean, if I was Charlotte, I would just keep Pokemon and keep him in that spot. I would maybe even bring Archie Goodwin off the bench to see how it goes, because I really think that they didn't really need to have a number nine replacement, even though I know after the sale of Patrick Archman, realistically you do think that they might need a number nine, but Tugamadi has done a really good job for the team, to a point where I think they could have just did the same thing that they did with Ajima when they sell Shvedetsky, and that is kind of promote within and just have the next man up and be the perfect replacement instead of going to the transfer window. Now, Toronto FC, they have traded Matty Longstaff to Montreal in exchange for Drew Anthony Varsagne and 250,000 general allocation money. It's kind of interesting that TFC and Montreal, as much as they hate each other, they have done a lot of deal recently with each other as well. We have seen a lot of players that have gone to the other side of the Canadian Classic rivalry, and this is kind of the latest one as well. It's kind of interesting because Matty Longstaff, he was okay during his time with Toronto, nothing spectacular. And the same goes with your Anthony Vincent, who looked very good last year with Montreal, but this season he just feels like he's been kind of snake bitten, just couldn't really quite get some minutes, and now him going to Toronto, and the fact that Toronto also have to pay 250,000, or actually receiving 250,000 general allocation money. I think it's a good deal for TFC as well, and for Montreal getting Matty Longstaff, they definitely need some midfield help, and I guess Manny Longstaff might help in terms of he was okay, wasn't absolutely spectacular, and again for the amount that they gave up, I feel like if you ask me who, of course, maybe won this trade or who maybe overpay or reap a little bit, I think Montreal probably is that team to do so. Now, moving on, in terms of other transfer rumors, or at least some players that is leaving MLS. So Federico Redondo has now officially been sold back to Europe, as Inter Miami have complete the transfer of him going to Eche in La Liga, and this was a matter of time because Redondo, he has been a huge flop during his time with Inter Miami. When they bought him, they thought that they got a good hidden gem in the midfield, and at least in the beginning he did relatively well, but then as the time goes, he just not only lost his spot, but just started to become a liability in that midfield, to a point where he dropped down the pecking order and not really getting a lot of minutes. So yeah, it turns out that that's kind of a bit of a bust that Inter Miami, of course, signing. Teams, of course, are going to sign some bust eventually. I mean, it's not going to be all the time when you go down to South America, and you always find the hidden gems, especially going down to Argentina to find that those hidden gems, or maybe if you have some connection with Lionel Messi, it's gonna work out so well, and that's kind of the case with Redondo. And the fact that at least they got some money out of that. I mean, they definitely got net negative in terms of this sale. They definitely didn't get as much as when they first signed him in the first place. But this is just about cutting the losses and cutting that that contract for a player that really just kind of dropped down the pecking order, and just it just feels like his future was in Inter Miami was pretty much about to come to an end, especially from the limited minutes that he's been getting this season. Now, the New England Revolution, they also waived Maxi Urruti and Luis Diaz as well, and I'll tell you in just a bit of why exactly they're gonna do do this. But Maxi Urruti and Luis Diaz, as much as they're kind of like a throwback to MLS. I mean, remember when both of those players was doing very well in MLS? I mean, Maxi Urruti, even though he was kind of a journeyman with a couple of teams, he definitely done pretty well during his time. Same with Luis Diaz. I remember how well he did with Columbus, but he's kind of like a one-trick pony where he's a very fast player, but when it comes to finishing, yeah, it's pretty much not non-existent. And then Minnesota have recently rejected a 4 million bid for Tani Oloashai. I believe Middlesbrough is the team that is looking to try to sign Tani Oloashai. Not surprised that Minnesota wants more for that, especially of how important Tani has been to this Loon side. I mean, out of those two number nines right now, I think Tani has definitely been in a much better form than what Kevin Yoboa has been. Or Calvin Yoboa, that is. Did I say Kevin? Well, I meant Calvin Yoboa and so far in the last couple of months, and especially how important Tiny is to this Loons team. There was no way the Loons were going to sell him. Yeah, only they will sell him for a high amount of money, and $4 million just feels like it's a bit of a ball move by Middlesbrough, and there was no way Minnesota was going to accept that deal. Now, Charlotte, they are report to agree to trade for Drake Callender. So, there's been talk of what exactly is going to happen with Drake Callender with Inter Miami. I think this is still a mistake for Inter Miami to let go of Drake Callender. I mean, I get it. Ustari has done pretty well throughout the season, and when I say pretty well, I mean he's been okay. There's been times where he's been great, but then there's times where he hasn't. I mean, the last game was kind of an example of it, though. Maybe that's due to the fact that I think they might have rushed him back a little bit too soon, coming back from an injury, and especially Rios Novos. I mean, Rios Novos at best he's a backup goalkeeper in this league. He's not starting caliber whatsoever. So why not you decide to keep Trey Calendar, who, even though I know he lost his spot with Inter Miami, this is a guy that, if he get his spot back and rediscover his form that he has, I mean that I think that would be a good thing, and especially Ustari, people forget that he's 38 years old. He's literally near the end of his career. He's pretty much only there because he's been best friends with Lionel Messi. So yes, I get that Inter Miami is really want to like keep a lot of their Argentine player, or especially if you have a connection with Messi, then you're going to be basically stay with the team. And if you don't have that connection with Messi, then yeah, you're probably out of the door. And maybe that's kind of the case with Drake Calendar. But I do think that Inter Miami has let go of some really big name player on this team that I feel like if they could have kept some of those players, they would have been in a better shape when it comes to the depth that they have. And again, trading for Drake Calendar, I don't think this is the right move for Inter Miami. And especially him going to Charlotte FC, that is a really surprising destination, especially with the way that Charlotte has already have a number one in Christian Kalina. I'm surprised that Drake Calendar want to go to a place where there's already established number one. I mean, he's not going to get any minutes with Charlotte if he is going to join there. So again, this is kind of a head scratcher in the way that Inter Miami decided to sell him. And then what's even a much bigger head scratcher is that if Drake Callender want to get some minutes away from other team, I don't think Charlotte would be a team that you would expect him to join, especially like I said. Kalina is going to be the number one for that Charlotte team, and Drake Callender I think is too good to be a backup in this league. I'm assuming there's going to be teams that looking for him. I mean, as I said earlier about the Portland Timbers having goalkeeping issue, I'm surprised the Timbers haven't thought about maybe trying to get Drake Calendar, especially with the problem of goalkeeping that they've been having up there in the Pacific Northwest. Now, going back to Inter Miami, so there's a rumor that they're going to sign Cruz Azul defender Gonzalo Pioli for $7 million. Now, if they do sign him, I'm not quite sure does that mean he reached the DP threshold, and if that is the case, then yeah, good luck Inter Miami in terms of how they're going to try to get that sorted out because again, they're already maxed out on the DP contract situation. They've already angered a lot of fans by the Rodrigo de Paul kind of situation where it feels like they use the Christian Pavone, a loophole that the Galaxy used a couple of years ago of kind of signing him on loan on a TAM contract before making him a DP once Sergio Busquets does leave the team. So yeah, again, I don't know how they're gonna try to maybe find another loophole in that. Are they gonna do the same thing like they did with Rodrigo De Paul, where they're gonna probably make him a max TAM contract on loan, and then next year they'll figure out how to get him to be a DP player. Obviously, I don't blame Inter Miami decided to look for defenders. They desperately need defensive help. I mean, that is the biggest Achilles heel for this team. It's been the biggest Achilles heel for this team ever since Messi joined this squad. I mean, they need a good defender, and I think Pioli, from what we saw in the Leeds Cup, he's a very good defender with Cruz Azul, regular starters as well. And I'm not surprised Cruz Azul was asking a lot of money for him. Consider, like I said, Liga MX team when it comes to selling some of their players, they always will ask higher amount than what we see MLS team are looking to trying to ask for Liga MX side of some of the players in MLS. So should be very interesting to see how this deal would happen, and it will also be even more interesting to see how they're going to kind of get him into the roster and maybe even anger some more fans about some of the sketchiness and also some of the loophole that Inter Miami has been using in order to still comply with MLS roster rule, despite the fact that every MLS fans are very upset the fact that it feels like Inter Miami has like 4 or 5 DP type of player right now. Now, the New England Revolution, they report to sign Israeli striker Dora Tugerman. And now, this, of course, is the signing that I mentioned earlier, talk about why exactly they decided to wait Maxi Urruti and Luis Diaz. Well, this is the guy that is going to replace him in that spot. Now, from what we know about players coming from the Israeli league, that is a league that I'm surprised not many MLS team is looking more into in terms of signing players, because when we look at some of these Israeli players that come into those league, there are some really good players that come into the league. I mean, a great example of that is Ty Baribo. Look what he's doing with the Philadelphia Union, coming from the Israeli league and Israeli himself as well. So I'm kind of surprised not many team is looking at Israel and maybe looking to try sign some of those players as well. But yeah, no doubt New England desperately looking for a number 9 and looking for a good replacement for those two guys that I mentioned that let them go, and this might be the one to do so, especially been scoring a lot with it his respective club in his Israel, and that, like I said, when it comes to Israeli play, comes to MLS, they more times or not, they actually turns out to be hit than actually a bust when they come into this league. Now, the Portland Timbers, they are report to sign former Inter Miami midfielder Mateus Rojas. So, like I said, the Timbers, they've been very busy when it comes to the transfer, and it seems like this is going to be another signing for them. And again, Mateus Rojas, what he was very specialized is the fact that he's a very good long range goal scorer. I mean, some of those long range goals that he scored with Inter Miami was absolutely ridiculous. Now, when it comes to being a creative player, I don't think he's got that kind of player. And especially again, for the Timbers, I feel like they're pretty much set in terms of the midfield spot. I'm kind of surprised that they decided to get another midfield to add in the depth. I mean, there's nothing wrong with adding more depth to your team, but it feels like they don't necessarily need to make this signing. But nevertheless, if they are going to make the signing, that's more depth to that midfield. And now all of a sudden, this Timber side, especially with the move that they already made, it feels like they're already very stacked going forward on the attacking end. Now, moving on, in terms of top about news that is not related to transfer rumors and signings, so Pro actually released a statement that they're actually going to be reevaluating their referee in regards to club connection. Now, this is a news that all happened because a couple of days ago, apparently, someone mentioned the fact that Tim Ford, the referee in the game between the Whitecaps and the San Jose Earthquakes, it seems like there's something resurfaced of his family, and I think it's his fiance posted a couple of picture of Instagram of him basically supporting LAFC and also with LAFC player as well. Now, there's been a lot of scrutiny when it comes to that, and again, one of the things that you definitely don't want to do, especially if you're pro, is you don't want your referee to basically support a certain club. And this is also where Vancouver fans are absolutely upset about this. I mean, they're already upset about Tim Ford in terms of some of the questionable calls that he did against the Quakes, but the fact that this feels like this maybe is a good reason of what happened a couple of years ago when he was in the center of the attention in that LAFC versus Vancouver game where he basically cost the Vancouver Whitecaps a goal because he set a pick on one of the players, started a counterattack for LAFC, and the rest is history after that. So again, I can understand why Pro is looking into this. They don't want referees to supposedly have some connection with a club or in general have some favoritism toward a club as well. I mean, I do think that in some way, in terms of some of the things that Whitecaps fans have said, and especially some of the things that someone have posted about that, I feel like that's a little bit overreach. I mean, I get it. Yes, maybe he might have and have families that have connection to a certain team. I mean, people got to remember, referees outside of the game, they still have a life outside of their job. That is just like we ourselves has a life outside of our professional career as well. But it is definitely alarming the fact that, again, I can understand why some people might question Tim Ford, and especially maybe even some of the referees in pro might have some favoritism towards certain team. And if that, of course, is the case, yeah, that's not great to see. That is not a good look. That's when you basically start to have corruption, and also just kind of the reason why maybe pro has been pretty bad for the last couple years, where maybe some referee might have some favoritism toward a certain team, and this is also where you of course get that classic narrative of certain teams maybe get the favoritism toward some of the calls that they have, and and most of these teams that of course get the favoritism would definitely be bigger market team. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've heard there's that narrative of, oh, looks like Inter Miami of course get all the calls in their favorite because yeah, they are the darlings of MLS. That is. Now, Heung-min Son, his jersey is now the highest selling jersey in the world right now, which is kind of crazy to say, consider, there's the GOAT himself is also in this league, but now it seems like Son has passed him in terms of the jersey sale. Now, I'm not surprised, consider, the hype surround Son coming into MLS. It's definitely real there, and I think it's going to continue, especially now that LAFC face off on the road. I think there's going to be a lot of South Korean fans are going to be in attendance to watch what is virtually their legend for their national team that is. So yeah, I think this is not a big surprise that is to see. I also wouldn't be surprised if Thomas Muller jersey sale will be right up there in terms of the top five right now, because I think a lot of Whitecaps fans are probably do the same thing as well in terms of trying to get his jersey with the arrival of that legend up there in Vancouver. Now, moving on, talk about some stadium thing in regards to some of the lower leagues. So we start off with Sacramento. So they finally break ground in terms of that Rail Yard Stadium. So there's been a lot of pushback in terms of finally getting that stadium built. The good news for Sacramento, and certainly for Sacramento Republic fan, it seems like that new stadium deal not only has reached, but now they get the okay of building the stadium. So there's no timeline exactly of when exactly they're gonna finish. I'm assuming it's probably gonna take about 2 or 3 years before they finish. But the fact that they finally put shovel on the ground and finally getting ready to build that stadium after just years of battle in terms of getting that stadium done, this has got to be great news to see. And that once that new stadium does open, I'm definitely gonna try to attend a game or two up there. Especially with the way that, again, Sacramento, they have said that they're being very ambitious in terms of not only building a great stadium in the USL, but especially with the way that the USL now is going to create a new division that is going to be rivaling MLS as the top tier. I wouldn't be surprised we see a lot of USL championship side that are still probably playing in the baseball specific stadium that is looking to try to build themselves their own soccer specific stadium that's going to rival some of these MLS teams. And one of those USL championship side is Detroit City, as they're also unveiling a new stadium plan that is set to open in 2027. Apparently, it's a 15,000 seat stadium. It's a little bit big, at least for the USL championship standard, but considering the fact that Detroit City, that team has a huge fan base, a big hardcore kind of fan base, as well. Not a big surprise that they decided to put a pretty big number in terms of the capacity. And again, this is a big part of the reason why we see a lot of these teams are building stadium that can be rival in terms of some of these MLS soccer specific stadium that we're seeing is because once USL First Division launch and once that league is going to go toe to toe with MLS as well, we're gonna see a lot of teams that's building these stadiums and that yeah, again, I'm very interested to see once they do launch that division and once we do have a situation where you have two league in the same tier, how is this going to end up? Is this going to be the same situation of what we've seen in other sports where I know in other sports we have seen before in history where two separate league go head to head against each other and consider themselves to be a top flight and more times than not in those situations seems like the two league would eventually reach an agreement to merge each other. So yeah, there could be. I mean, I'm not gonna say that it could happen, but I feel like we maybe could be heading to that stage where do not be surprised maybe 10 or 15 year down the line where we could see this the American soccer landscape. I think it's going to change dramatically in these next 10 years or so, especially with USL pushing hard to becoming the more relevant in league and especially introducing promotion and relegation that will be a huge injection in terms of what American soccer fans been wanted for a very long time and to when eventually push comes to shove there could be a case where we could not only see two league fighting against each other, but maybe eventually they might come in an agreement and merge into one separate league. And I wonder how that's going to turn out later on as well. Now, Memorial Stadium in Seattle has now been demolished, and I know Sounders fans might be a little bit sad to see, especially Seattle soccer fans might be sad to see because Memorial Stadium is actually the first stadium that the Seattle Sounders have call home. But the good news with that stadium is that it is actually being renovated. They're not getting rid of that stadium and putting new housing development. They're actually redeveloping that stadium right now. So in some way, it's not really demolished. It's just the fact that they're just redeveloping and completely rebuilding that stadium from the ground up. And it's great to see that it is the case. I mean, when I was in Seattle a couple of times, I've seen that stadium before. It's right near the Space Needle, and it's in a very lovely kind of outset. But it was pretty obvious that they had to either renovate or maybe completely rebuild that stadium because the structure itself it is very old and that a major redevelopment needs to do. They of course reached that agreement just a couple of years ago, and now they're in the process of redeveloping it, and it should be interesting to see once they do redevelop that place. I mean, they mentioned that they're going to use a mix of soccer games and also high school football games as well. But I won't be surprised that that might lure maybe a team that could be playing there, maybe an MLS Next Pro team play there as well. Even though I don't know if that's going to be the case, considered the Sounders technically have their own MLS Next Pro team as well. And Tacoma Defiance, I don't think they're going to be moving into that stadium. They're going to stay put in Starfire as long as possible. So we'll see whether or not once they do redevelop that stadium, maybe they're going to be either a Next Pro team or even, maybe even a USL League One team that could be selling in that stadium because with the way that they're redeveloping that and making it much nicer, there could be a case where we could see a lower league team that could call that venue a home as well. And then last but not least, so this was reported a couple of days ago that indeed looks like we might get a regular season La Liga game. So a couple of years ago, there was definitely a big shout that a regular season La Liga game was going to come to the U.S. Obviously, that move never materialized, but now it seems like it's back again. And this time, it seems like Barcelona could be facing Villarreal in Miami for that La Liga leads game in December. I believe December 20th is the specific day as well. And this game, of course, will be taking place at Hard Rock Stadium. Now, obviously, there's been a lot of backlash when it comes to this, and I can understand why there's a bit backlash in terms of this. I can also understand why La Liga is doing this. La Liga is trying to get into the U.S. market, especially with the way that the Premier League has done a good job getting into the U.S. market. La Liga feel like the only way to do so is that this might be a good way to expose to the U.S. market, but if you're doing that, then you also are breaking tradition. And if there's one thing I know about European fans that is a little different from American fans. I mean, us American fans, for the most part, we do kind of accept the fact that we're starting to seeing some of our teams playing overseas for regular season matchup. I know the NFL does it for a very long time. Other leagues like the NBA, NHL, and even the MLB has done it for a couple of times. But unfortunately, in European sports culture, especially in the football culture there in Europe, that's absolutely unacceptable. You cannot have that kind of thing happen, especially with the way that that it's always been built, that league games cannot be played anywhere else just because it's a cash grab. I mean, you can have cash grab during the preseason, that perfectly fine, but doing a regular season, that's just have gone too far. So it's interesting to see whether or not, if we're gonna get once again get some pushback. Again, UEFA will have to approve on this. FIFA, of course, I think will also have to approve it, but most likely FIFA would approve it because one of the person that is looking to approve it, or the group that is looking to approve it, are based in the Miami area. So they obviously want to have that happen. But now it's all about whether or not if UEFA would approve it. And a lot of fans are demanding UEFA to not approve this because, again, it goes against everything the tradition and heritage that stands in European soccer. And again, I just think that if this does happen, this could be a huge concern to other European league as well, because now that La Liga is trying to do so, other European league like the Premier League or even the Bundesliga or even Serie A, they might think about playing some of their regular season game in the US. And I even heard there's even that extreme talk of one day maybe the Champions League final might be playing in the US as well. I don't think that will ever happen. If that does happen one day, that would be a very sad day when it comes to the football landscape. But yeah, I can understand why there's that push in terms of trying to play games in the US, because as we've seen in the Club World Cup so far, yeah, that's where the money is. A lot of these teams is all about generating the money. And while I know every European fans will feel like the heritage should never be be over on the top of the dollar sign, or the money that these leagues are trying to generate. At the end of the day, in today's market, money will always rule everything. When it comes to where you, of course, can get the maximize revenue, these leagues are going to have no hesitation in terms of trying to create a solution, even if that does break a decade long or even a century long tradition that some of these league has, especially with this being the first ever La Liga game and the first ever European league game to take place outside of Europe itself, or the respective country that they have, and in this case, Spain as well. But there you have it. That is pretty much it for the news of the week episode. As always, let me know in the comments below what do you think of these news, and if there's any news I didn't mention here on the board, let me know in the comments below as always. But until then, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure to leave a like, smash the subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.